Well, hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 114. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And this week, we're going to discuss a few synths that have captured our attention at Superbooth 2024. Sounds like Curtis might have some gas, but we'll talk about it. Let us know in the chat, though, if anything announced there caught your attention. We're curious to hear everybody's, because I think we're all going to have some different takes. There was a lot to see there. Not like we were there, but from living vicariously through other YouTubers and announcements and all that stuff. Then in the round robin, we're going to have an interesting discussion about the line between authenticity and crowd pleasing in our music making. And this comes off of actually having to DJ over the weekend an event. And I wanted to just talk about that type of stuff. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is Curtis. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. It's one of those weeks where it keeps coming thick and fast, but remaining positive and seeing the good amongst all the messiness of it all. So yeah, doing well. Keeping busy. Spent a lot of time over in that side of the room sketching.
Building or like building the actual stuff or sketching music?
Sketching music. So there's a Fender over there. There's a 32 key MIDI keyboard there. And there's the beginnings of what is a soft modular synth as well. And it will just be sketching. And so yeah, been finding the pleasure and been finding the fun in that finally after a few weeks of having it and not being able to do anything with it. Yeah, I can't complain. How about yourself, though?
You know, I thought there was burnout, but now I know there's burnout. And then there's a line past burnout, and I think I'm already past that one. So I apologize if I'm a little low energy today. It's been crazy lately, but yeah, I actually found a little time. I carved out a little time to do some guitar stuff because I was working on all the distribution stuff for the remix album, and I was like, I really want a guitar version of Moonglade. And so I grabbed my drop A guitar and I did this like ambient, just it was an interesting exercise in seeing how much I could translate a song without actually remembering the song. Like I was just I listened to the song once, I didn't open the file, and I just tried to kind of like build it from the fragmented memory I had of making it, but also listening to it once. And it was a really interesting way of how it worked. I really liked the outcome, I think, more than the original version. And it was just a really nice expression of like just taking everything from the last few weeks and just kind of expressing it in guitar. And like the guitar, I haven't changed the strings in 2 years, and I didn't care. I was just like, I'm just recording it, and I did 2 takes of every part, and then I used the folder in Logic to fix between the 2 takes. Like if there was an issue in one take and one note, I'd use the second take, and then I just like did that, and it turned out really cool. I really like it. Thomas says it's called having a kid. You will get through. I can't wait. That's what everybody's saying, but we'll get there. We'll get there, I'm sure. As bringing up Thomas, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. We've got a ton of patrons, and we've got Smiling Errors. What's going on, Smiling Errors? How are you? We've got our patron Abby. Always happy to see you here, Abby. Hope you're doing well. Asef Stripe, another patron, is here, and of course Thomas is here. Everyone, how are you doing? Have you been keeping tabs on Superbooth? I'm curious to hear if anything caught your attention. There's some really interesting stuff out this week. So should we just get over to it, Curtis?
Yeah, let's go through to
it. I like that. Nice. Good timing, my friend.
The booth of Super, exactly. Did account for 3 windows, but it's fine. It will cover us for now. And just move it back.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's all good. Let's start with the ones that you brought to the table, because they're
real quick. I just want to say hello to our another patron, Survey Channel. Got a meeting, so popping in quick. Thanks for dropping by. Always happy to have you here. Hope you're doing well. Have a good meeting, and we'll see you, I guess, in the replay then. This will be the little delineation where now you can watch the replay. All right. Sorry, Curtis. Continue, my friend.
No worries. It's all good. It's just we've always got to stop the Survey Channel. Yeah. So
dude. Yeah. Speaking of remixes, his remix just blew my mind. Awesome.
I still need to hear I'm meant to be doing all this processing for all the promo stuff, and I still ain't got them. I want to hear these remixes when they come out.
That's on me, but yeah, no. His remix is going to be the first track because it like sets the mood perfectly, because it starts with parts from my song, and then it like slowly morphs into this crazy Survey Channel-esque thing that's just awesome. I was messaging him. The mix was perfect. I was like, whoa, the drums have this, the kick has this massive tone, but it doesn't overpower. Really cool.
I'm looking forward to it very much so. I've heard snippets of some people's, and I'm waiting for the whole journey.
I mean, everybody crushed it with the remix. I was like, I gotta quit making music and just give people sounds, because this is the better way to go.
I hear that, but don't quit making music. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. We will be talking a bit more about that a bit later in the round robin, and obviously over the next couple of weeks as we start to kind of formulate it and get closer to the release. I don't have the release date offhand right
June
now.
21st.
There you go. I thought you get that one. You get that.
I got that one. Yeah, I know dates because I just did all the distribution for multiple label releases. So yeah, we'll have a few singles out before then and stuff. But yeah, June 21st is the full release.
Well, there we go. So we will be talking about that in the coming weeks, but we do have another release coming next week, sooner than that, which we should start when the man himself is not here right now, but that's okay.
We're missing Eon Lake today, unfortunately, but he's here in spirit, and you can hear a lot of his amazing music in the next couple weeks. So yeah, we'll get there.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Yes. We'll carry on for now, as Thomas says in the chat. Yeah, some more, but don't quit. And
I was being facetious. I'm not gonna quit, but it was very awesome to see just the talent of our. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Everybody's amazing in our community, but just to hear what everybody did, and just to see like what they could do with these sounds and stuff, it was just really cool to hear these songs that I was so engrossed in for a full year in completely different perspectives because of someone else's lived experience and all that. I mean, it's just it's very special. It's just really cool.
For sure, man. It's gonna be good. Well, take that energy and for now channel it into your gear acquisition syndrome and tell us all about your picks from Superbooth. You've got two. I brought one to the table, you brought two.
Well, so one is fully mine, and the other, Mike, one of our patrons, had mentioned about it last week, so I wanted to cover it a little bit.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so let's start with the Oberheim Teo-5. Tell us all about this.
So is that the one you got queued up?
That is the one that I've got queued up. So
I'll share it in a second. Then I just wanted to make sure before I hit the button. So the Oberheim Teo-5. So I want to start first with the price, because I mean it's expensive, but I thought it was a pretty good price considering everything it's got. So it's $1,499, $1,500. So we get a 2-oscillator 5-voice polyphonic synth from Oberheim, which, you know, if you've watched us for a while, we all love Oberheim synths, even if we can't afford most of them. 44-note key bed. Let's see. I don't think it's MPE, but that's okay. Dual VCO architecture, through 0 FM synthesis, dedicated monophonic and polyphonic multi-waveform LFOs that are independently syncable with flexible destination assignments. You know, we love all the LFO programming. State variable morphing filters. Let's see, what else do we have? Unison, oscillator cross mods, sync, sub oscillator, and a noise generator. And I think, yeah, there's some Oberheim digital effects, including phase shifter, ring modulation, choruses, delays, and more. Dedicated reverb, overdrive, and vintage parameters. You know, we love those vintage analog synths, right? Even if it's a mimic of it or something. ADSR envelopes both feature toggled velocity sensitivity and flexible amp filter gate and auxiliary assignments. 3-octave multi-mode arpeggiator. Always love that. And we have I/O that includes 5-pin MIDI in, out, and through, alongside pedal, foot switch inputs, and MIDI-capable USB-B port. So lots of stuff there. Nothing groundbreaking, but a nice analog synth that's got like $1,500, which isn't too bad. Let's hear some sounds from it.
I'll bring that up here. Whoa.
As Asaph says, that Teo-5 sounds really nice. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's just a really nice sounding synth. And I like the fact that it's like it's a nice size. It kind of reminds me of the Mini Log in the sense that it's pretty portable, you know, travel applicable, but it still has a decent key bed. 44 keys isn't too bad. So I like that because, I mean, right now, a lot of my stuff needs to be portable, needs to be mobile. I need to be able to kind of move between different places, or if I'm doing a live performance or something, I want to have that flexibility. So I like these kind of middle grounds of decent sized synth with a lot of knobs and things in front of you, but it's still somewhat portable and things like that. So that's why I've got it. Looks like a lot of people in the chat are agreeing. Thomas says, looks slick, gas triggered. Thomas, you've got some really nice synths. So I don't know if you need it, but I mean, we could all use a nice new analog synth or synth. But yeah, Curtis, what's your take on this?
I saw the docket ahead of time, and I was like, another Oberheim. And I kind of got a bit dismissive of it, as I am a dismissive human being. And
you're not though.
And well, I went for it. I was like, nah, it's another Oberheim's too expensive. Fuck this, you know. And then yeah, I love it. It sounds really good. And I looked at it, and like you say, portable but good key bed. Nice effects on there, sounding really nice, really slick. I like the way not the UI, but it looks very well put together, and it looks like it flows quite nicely. If you're like you say, it looks like, for me, it almost like runs from left to right, which I really like. That's good for my brain. And you know, the big filter in the middle, for example, with the cutoff, it just fits, and it looks spacey as hell.
Yeah, it's got that awesome Oberheim look, you know.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm down 1,500. I mean, I will probably, unless it's probably for me when I'm closer to retirement kind of age. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I wanted to bring up too, because we covered the Oberheim OBX8, which was an 8-voice synth from them, I want to say a year or two ago, and we love the sound of it from just the videos we showed and things like that. But it was $5,000. So that's why when I saw this one for 1,500, I was like, ooh. I mean, again, 1,500 is no joke. It's a lot of money. It's not something I can afford right now. It sounds like neither can you, but it's a lot more reachable, let's say, than $5,000 for a synthesizer. You know, it's not limited per se, but it's more of an analog synth that's, you know, got a certain sound set, you know, and things like that. So yeah, 1,500 is a lot more reasonable sounding price, you know, because we're always trying to think about budget conscious and things like that. And I like what Thomas says here. You can always use one more synth. And Asaph says, considering what those SEM desktops go for, this feels reasonable. Yeah, for sure.
It's fringe reachable.
It's fringe reachable. Yeah. Yeah.
I hear it completely. I think it reminds me of Hydra Fighter's song that he wrote for our compilation a few years ago, Ambitious Kids. I do feel at this stage we are a couple of ambitious kids looking and swooning over this and going, you know what, I love it, but we just can't afford it at this moment in time. And that's okay. It looks beautiful. It's something to aspire to in that regard. I do feel it's not something you'd need to have. You'd plug it in, for example, and then you probably wouldn't need an effects chain behind it. It would do everything there. It would be fine as it is. And, you know, you wouldn't need to go and do a lot of sound design behind the signal coming through, and you could just get lost in the fairies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you 100%. And we've got a couple more comments I want to read, and then we can move to the next ones. Smiling Air says, I always wanted analog synths to auto move their knobs and sliders. That way, the way mixing desks do for presets, that would solve the software versus hardware issues I have with them. Yeah, I feel you. It's an issue I have with like the SP404, even the Minilog, the Prophet. Like, if you go to a preset, it doesn't change it, right? So if you start moving it, it's going to move it not where you have it, but where it's registered or saved, at least the ones that I have. And that always is kind of like annoying, because if you want it to be where you have the filter, it'd just be nice if it could do that sort of thing. So yeah, but then sometimes you want it the way that it is. So yeah, I hear you though, Smiling Ears. I'm with you 100%. Thomas says, the color reminds me of the Poly Evolver. I think that's a Dave Smith synth, isn't it? Because Dave Smith with...
it is, yeah. Oh, it's frozen. Right? You are frozen.
You froze. I froze. I don't know who froze. Everybody's frozen. We're all freezing. We're just frozen in awe of the Oberheim Teo-5, I guess.
Exactly.
But you are, Thomas says yes, it is. Yeah, the Poly Evolver is Dave Smith. Yeah, that's what I thought. I love the Prophet.
There you go.
Yeah,
it's I'm sure the Prophet loves you.
I mean, I've had it for 11 years. Actually, I got it in 2013.
I remember how sad you got at the prospect of it dying on you.
Yeah, I thought it died. It had these tuning issues. Yeah, it had some really weird tuning issues, but I did some sort of reset, and that seemed to do it. Asif says Polyevolver is special. Beware. I mean, I don't know with the beware. I'm not sure what you mean by special, but every Dave Smith synth is amazing. So
would love it. Exactly. So looks like people in the chat really like the idea of the Oberheim. Fair play. It's beautiful. It looks really nice. That I really like that low end on that one. If you're watching back, be that here or off on Spotify, what do you think? Let us know. Is there anything in particular that you took from Superbooth? Were you at Superbooth? I know a lot of people were at Superbooth. I was thinking about it. Couldn't make it down this year, but it looked like a lot of fun. 59 Perlin went, for example. It looked like a lot of fun. Yeah, exactly. Yes, so that is the Oberheim. What is this other, the Polybrute?
Give me 1 sec. I'm writing out these little
he's writing out a banner.
These banners, yeah. So sorry if you hear my clacky keyboard clacking away, but that's what I'm doing.
Specifically bought a clacky keyboard in a studio designed for podcasting and for
okay, but it's kind of a nice sound. I like the sound. Yeah, and if Eon Lake was here, I could mute myself and do this typing, but he's not here, so we're left to fend for ourselves here. So, okay, do we want to do my next one, or do we want to go to yours?
I've got the Polybrute queued up here.
Way to spoil it, but there we go. The Arturia Polybrute 12.
You already discussed it in the intro, brother.
Did I say Arturia? I forgot. That's how tired I am. Yeah, okay. Wait for me to spoil it, for you to then re-spoil it, I guess, let's say. Thomas, real quick, says, Curtis, we should meet at Superbooth24.
Yes. All right. I am down, man.
Speaking of meetings, though, it sounds like Curtis and I may be meeting for the very first time in person come this summer, if all the logistics work out. But that's the plan, because I'll be in Switzerland in July, which isn't too far. Yeah, and one of us froze again. I don't know who froze.
I saw you. It's not too far, and then you went. Go.
Yeah, you completely froze just typing. I was like, am I boring you discussing how we're going to meet? But either way, one of us froze. I apologize. Whichever in the recording is coming through, then that's it. But yeah, let's go back to the Arturia. But yeah, I'm very excited at the prospect that we might actually finally meet. That'll be really, it's been like 4 years that we've been doing this, and we've never met in person. It's completely. First you were in Vietnam, now you're in Europe. Yeah,
I mean, crazy. I mean, it's insane. So yeah, that's going to be a hell of a journey. We will document it, and we'll have a few guerrilla ADSNs where.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out the best way to make the most of this chance meeting. But yeah, if any of you have ideas, or patrons, if you have ideas, go ahead and post it in the Discord. But let's talk about this Arturia Polybrute 12. So Mike had mentioned this, one of our patrons, last week, because I think it was announced around then, but they had it at Superbooth from what I could tell. You got the video queued up. Let's check out some sounds, and then I'll read a little bit about it.
All right, let's bring this up.
Pulse width modulation and the metalizer triangle shaper on VCO1. VCO1 features continuous frequency sync, while VCO2 includes a sine wave sub-oscillator and frequency modulation between oscillators.
Sounds like Arturia goodness, right?
Yeah, it does. Very much.
Additionally, both oscillators include a noise generator.
All right, we'll cut it there. I think at the start they might have a couple more like melodic sounds if you just want to see real quick while I read some of the bits. So Arturia,
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Polybrute 12, $39.99, and that's not $39.99. $3,999. So we started with a slightly more budget conscious, or as Asap Stripe said, fringe reachable synth, and now we're going to just completely out of the reachable to the higher tier, whatever you want to call it, luxury synth. I don't know. I'm thinking cars, but there's some really cool features on this, and we'll hear some more of those sounds. Full touch MPE keyboard, always nice. It's called the 12 because it's 12 voice polyphony. Lots of what's it called? Modulation and morphing and multi-axis control. You'll see there's some really interesting features. I think the Polybrute 6 had a very similar setup. 2 filters, Steiner and ladder, configurable in series, parallel, or continuously variable. As I already mentioned, massive amounts of modulation with the Morphe controller and other things combined. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that's all I've got written down here, but let's just check out its sound. Like Asaph is with me. Cadillac synth. Yeah, that's the luxury synth. They're super synth. Thomas says that thing is big. And then he says a big something synth. Posterior synth is, I guess, what the best way to say what he's saying. He says mansion synth. Keep it going. I love these. It's awesome. Really quick before we check out the sound, so Smiling Ears has an idea for us. Bike holiday with wheel generators for charging the Dallas travel kits.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Switzerland.
Thomas says, what if it turns out you can't stand each other? That would be a bit awkward. Honestly, we already can't stand each other, so who cares? You know, whatever.
This is all a mask. This is all for
yeah,
show.
It's all a facade. We've only been doing it for 4 years, and we just do it because of the sheer hatred towards each other that we have.
We do it for all the money that we make from this show. That's what we do.
Yeah, which if you do want to help support us, head to patreon.com/audionautic. Yeah, thanks for the setup there.
There we go. Beautiful.
my enemy. Anyways, let's check out some of these sounds. And again, if you have other names for this category of synth, carry on in the chat. Asaph, you've got a lot, so I'm happy to hear more if you got them. But if you don't mind playing, let's hear some of those sounds.
Play up to 12 notes simultaneously in the most expressive way.
Talking.
All right, pause it there, Curtis, so I can just keep it up there for a second. So you can see, not only is it a large synth, but up there on the right, above his right hand, that's a lot of the modulation stuff, at least from what I've seen. That's like the big thing, but there's tons of modulation and things like that. Asaph says 3-car garage. I love it. I love it. Yeah, very nice. Smiling Earth says 4K Ivory Keys. Yeah, I doubt that one, and hopefully not. But it does have the MPE keyboard. The what is, I always forget what that stands for. Is it polyphonic expression or whatever? But all that really cool stuff. This is why we need Eon Lake sometimes. So, Thomas says you need long arms to turn the knobs. Yeah, you got to do quite some reaching to get to a few of those. But
like
I mean,
trash pickers.
Say again, Curtis.
One of those like trash pickers, you know, where you pick up like
to reach. I mean, look, it looks awesome. It looks incredible with what you can do with it, and I mean, seems like there's so many possibilities for modulation. And like we were talking, the what is it, Teo-5 is kind of like, hey, here's your synth, here's what you do. This one is like, okay, go crazy. Like you can program stuff all like completely different aspects of synthesizer, you know, like the one is like, hey, here's your synth, you can do some really cool sounds. The other one's like, well, here's a lot of stuff, go crazy with it. So yeah, I thought having the two kind of polar ends or something show kind of everything that's possible with synths and things like that. And I believe this one also has I don't know about the Oberheim, but this one has, you can connect it to the computer and it has like, you know, a plugin, like you can control knobs and things like that on the computer. From my recollection, I might be wrong on that, but I think I remember seeing that on the Arturia website.
Fair play. I mean, it looks huge. I mean, it's almost daunting looking at it because I'm looking around here and like, I've not got the biggest bedroom in the world, and it's like, you know, where am I going to put it? That is before even assuming that it is $4,000 US. So I mean, it's completely out my ballpark right now. But I would like to have a deep dive. I wonder, with the things that you can do with it, the extent to which justify the 4K, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know nothing about nothing, so I don't know. But I mean, I'm looking at it going 4K, and I'm thinking, look at what it could do, and perhaps I'm thinking, is it the name? is it the Arturia name that's costing 4K in that regard? Or I don't know, maybe there's something that I'm missing in that. It's a lot of money to spend on a synthesizer. It's a lot of money. You're muted, I believe.
That makes sense. I was looking on the screen and not on here. I believe I was going to say, or I was saying, the Polybrute 6, the previous one, was I think 3100 or is 3100. So I mean, you get 6 more voices and I think a lot more added things. I'm not saying that justifies the price tag, but there is a lot to this synth. A couple questions in the chat, and I'm going to share their website because I was right. There is the DAW integration. Polybrute Connect provides a content bridge between Polybrute and your virtual studio projects. Manage your patches and easily import new presets and sound banks. Control Polybrute in real time with every parameter change mirrored between synth and software. And Thomas was asking, what is that sensor expression pad on the left side, which I believe, I don't think you can see my mouse, but that morphing multi-axis control, I think that's what you're talking about, Thomas. And that's the Morphe, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I'm just going to say Morphe controller, which it states allows you to transition between 3 destination parameters. Smiling Ears asks XY. I'm assuming that one is XY just by its nature of, you know, how it works, but I'm not sure. Smiling Ears asks, says we should add a bit bigger screen nowadays with how software visualizes tools. Hardware should make more effort. Yeah, I guess the kind of workaround is the fact that you get the computer connection should you do it, but yeah.
I think it's
again, I'm not here to justify their choices. I'm just saying, like, I can understand, you know, yeah. Where is the screen on? Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's small, but I wonder at the same time, while it's a valid point, I also think, I mean, I say this as a visual person who likes synthesizers that have a big screen and does have that. You can see the tactile response visually, but I will say at the same time, since I've been doing ear training more often and that, a lot more stuff is more intuitive by ear. So that could be an exercise in that regard to go through that. There's definitely
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody watching to think we're trashing this synth at all, because I mean, yeah, the price is a lot and stuff, but I think it looks awesome. I think it sounds great, and I think the modability of it is really cool. Like we always talk, we want to see new things happening with synths, and I think here we're seeing some of that. I mean, I know it's very similar to the Polybrute 6, but still, I like seeing this kind of flexibility and things. And yeah, it comes at the cost of a giant interface, but is that so bad if it's like a studio synth or something? You know,
for sure.
I think it looks awesome, and the fact that you can have it connected to the computer and make these changes in there, I think kind of gives you that bigger screen should you want it. But if you want to do that kind of like ear training stuff, it's there too. So yeah.
But I like it in black. It likes to come in black. I'm not I like it. I like it's cool. It looks interesting in that regard, a lot to play with. It is a playground.
Yeah.
The 70s wood paneling vibe, I'm less keen on. Could do with it coming in black.
Not a fan of the wood grain?
It's maybe, I don't know, maybe no.
I know what you mean.
Something like that.
I feel like the wood grain fits with like a good analog synth, and then like a classic analog synth, right? And then this is trying to be very modern, so it's like this clash of wood grain kind of like vintage idea, but then this crazy modern. I think it looks cool. I'd like to see it in black with the wood grain, similar to the Prophet. I'm with you there, but yeah, I mean, it's still, the sounds are the sounds, right? Whether it has wood grain or not. Asa says, I love the look. It's very retro mod. Yeah, I get what you mean. I that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, to me, the wood grain, I mean, this is aesthetic. I don't really care, but like, to me, the wood grain makes me think like a vintage synth. And maybe that's my own idea, but then I see like what it can do, and I'm like, all these mods and things like that. It's like, oh, interesting. Thomas sounds like has to bounce, unfortunately, but Thomas, always happy to have you. We'll see you soon, hopefully, and of course in the Discord. Thomas, you're kind of part of the genesis of the round robin, because we'll be talking about authenticity versus crowd pleasing and things like that. But yeah, if you want, you can tune back into it. But it was a very interesting discussion he and I had about mastering and things. We weren't arguing. Hopefully he didn't get that from my lack of sleep while writing this stuff, but it was a very interesting topic that led to it. So yeah, hopefully we can talk about it more, Thomas, because I love those conversations with you. Also want to say hello to Pat. Pat says Akai retro even. Yeah, I hear you.
I get that. So yeah, I mean, anything more on that?
One more thing from Smiling Ears. That's a good point, and I think I missed a couple from Asaph. The lighter shades look odd, but make it easier to keep track of all those dials. That's a very good point.
True.
Yeah, because if it was,
Yeah.
I mean, they'd probably have to change the knobs and things like that. Were they to do like a black color or something like that? Asaph says a noir version will come out one day, most likely. Yeah. Also says it has a lot of expressive elements with a great interface. Yeah, 100%. I think it's really cool, and I like to see synths that are pushing new things and stuff like that. And the modability of this is just awesome.
I'd agree very much on that. It does look interesting in that regard. And I say this as I'm queuing up the next one. I'm not dissing it. I am just curious about the price and curious about what it can do. But I mean, if I was in a studio and it had one in there, I would lap it up in no time, as I think we all would. You know, none of us are going to say no. Hey, by the way, do you want the Polybrute 12? Nah, you're all right.
That's all right. Just give me a MIDI keyboard. I'm good.
Exactly. So yeah, I am still trying to find a picture for this new one. But then we can go from there. Next up, we have something a little bit different, a little bit on the other end of it. There we go. No, but never mind. Okay, I'll bring this up instead.
We got the video, right? Just pull up the video. We can pause it.
Exactly. Good thinking. So this is coming from the other end of things. This is a prototype, which is due to be released to either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. This is the KORG Phase 8 electroacoustic synth here, which is a really cool electroacoustic kind of vibe. I found this on just on the YouTube basically. The KORG Acoustic Synthesis Phase 8 is an electronically controlled acoustic instrument, and it's basically part melodic synthesizer, part drum machine. You can see over here that these little guys, you see my mouse, these are physical resonators which physically make a sound and go into a pickup, which is really cool, which is their kind of acoustic part of it. And then you control them electronically with these dials and these knobs down here, which it's a great little kind of hybrid between acoustic sounds and electronic synthesis in that regard.
It's an electric kalimba.
Well, this is kind of what fascinated me, because I was in the forums and I was reading around. It's like people were just dismissing it. It's just a fancy kalimba and stuff like that. And I see where they're coming from, but also I think there's a bit more. And I'll play the video.
I've always wondered, like, can you top perfection? And maybe they have, right?
Maybe. I'll tell you what. We'll play the video and people can see. I will see this around. There's two ways. Basically, you hit them with these squares, and then you can change the envelope with these knobs here, and you can turn it from very kalimba-y sound to something very different. So I'll shut up for a sec. Let's just watch this.
And you have individual kind of tone control over each resonator. So if I'm plucking this one here, I can turn it up, gets a little bit of kind of distortion, or I can turn it down. And then I also have like a time component. So depending on the kind of way I'm playing the instrument, I can increase or decrease the kind of envelope. So in the hammer mode, it's the release of the envelope. So it's got a short attack and like something like that.
Oh, listen to that.
There's a couple of kind of more global effects. So if I'm playing that in sustain mode,
very chimey, very kind of
tremolo,
very ambient, right?
Yeah.
But
that would be the perfect sample machine.
Slow.
Well, exactly.
Kind of,
and you can
interact with the instrument as it's being
8-step sequencer as well. So yeah, I don't want to get copyright. I don't want to get.
Let's stop there. But yeah, very cool. I mean, thanks for bringing that, because I went the synth route, and I'm glad to see you went kind of the more experimental prototypey route, because as Smiling Ears says, it's our favorite instrument. I keep mine right here.
There you go.
Always ready to sample. But yeah, I mean, that seems really interesting. Smiling Ears also says, I was skeptical about electric violins until I heard them. Electric kalimba will be the same. Ready to fall in love. Turn up the distortion.
Very nice. Very good. Yeah. I think that's exactly what caught my eye about it. Okay, you can, if you bring it down to its basic point, it is basically an electric kalimba, right? But you can change the envelope, you can make it through. It's great for sampling. Imagine then running that through a granulator or something like that, and it would just completely change.
Or even just super massive.
Or even just, yeah, actually.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I also, it's not just like, I mean, obviously it's not an electric kalimba for real, but I mean, it's very similar in its aesthetic. But what I like is the fact that it's not just like an electric guitar is just take the guitar, add pickups, add, you know, send it to an amp. You could do pedals and stuff like that. But this is adding a sequencer, envelopes. Like there's a lot of slight modulations and things like that added to it. So very interesting. Spires also says time for 808s to step aside. Booming kalimba beats. Yeah.
Great. I do wonder if, okay, so this is, we'll stipulate now, it's not for sale yet. It's still there. In the video, you can go back and watch the video. I'll put the links in the chat, but basically what they're saying is basically ready to go, and they have the concept and the design down. What they're struggling with right now is mass production. How do you mass produce this for essentially profit? Right, it's still business, got to make money, that kind of thing. Yeah. Which is fair play, but they said that it should be next year that they can start shipping them, right? But this notion, this idea of physical resonators going into a pickup being controlled electronically is a fantastic synthesis, to pardon the pun, of the acoustic world and the electroacoustic world. And right now, this is a kalimba, essentially, which the kalimba is a great, best instrument in the world. Never knocking the kalimba.
Don't even insinuate that you are.
Exactly.
How dare you?
Wouldn't dream of it, sir.
Speak ill of the kalimba. What's wrong with you?
Nothing at all.
Sir.
But I'm just wondering, while the kalimba is the pinnacle of all instrumentation, what else
can be better? Kalimba is good, but it could be better.
It's like the kalimba is great. I mean, I'm not saying that we could ever get anything more than a kalimba, but I'm happy for them to take a step down and then create a hybrid or an acoustic electro synthesis of something else, for example, and then see how that goes. Now, imagine your guitar, for example, just as to take a couple of steps down. Imagine if that had a step sequencer on it.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Like a guitar just kind of takes the guitar and electrifies it. This is taking this idea and adding envelopes, distortion, you know, all that. Sequencer. Yeah, got a couple comments. Asif says we will all have one if less than 300. Yeah, KORG, if you want anybody to demo, we're here. We're ready. We're here for you. We are the kalimba enthusiasts.
We believe in what your product is.
Yeah. Asif says my kalimba is uncomfortable. It knows something better is coming. Getting phased out by electric kalimba. Yeah. Not like, I mean, do they even say like, oh, this is an electric kalimba? Or yeah, I mean, it seems similar. We're kind of taking it and running with it, but
I don't think they would dare, to be honest. I think it's more about the forums and the chat and the cynicism surrounding it and comments and stuff like that. I don't think they would make that. I think they're very much going with the sense of this is a hybrid acoustic, electroacoustic instrument, and that's how they're billing it, which does sound a lot better than electric kalimba.
You think that sounds better? I feel like electric kalimba gives it that like nicheness that's like, oh, like, you know.
Okay, while we might be part of the clan that recognizes the majesty of the kalimba, I think it's still in the wider scope. It's still kind of considered this thing that you give to kids to get them interested in music and stuff like that, and it's a bit like a recorder in that sense.
No, I get that. I was just thinking running with that idea and being like, look what we could do with this simple idea would be an interesting marketing standpoint, instead of saying acoustic synthesis phase. I mean, they probably know better than I'm just saying, like, I think having like that interesting marketing thing of like, look, we took this kid's toy or whatever, you know, how dare I say that? I know, but and like we made this thing. I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you. I think that maybe there's room for, as Jack would say, there's room for both in this regard. And this is still a prototype. It's not going to mass production yet. We'll have to see. KORG, if you're watching and you would like advice on how to market this, we're always up for a call.
Again, I'm sure they've thought of all of this stuff, and I mean, it's KORG. They're awesome, but yeah, I'm just talking out loud and being somewhat joking and whatnot. But yeah. It just, I mean, it just seems like that could be an interesting way of marketing it. But yeah, Little Bro Plays Games is in the chat. How's it going? Says, sorry, I'm not here to stay. That's all right. Happy to see you here.
Very much so. Hello, bro.
Tell Eon like he is missed.
He is. Tell Eon like he's missed. And we're looking forward to seeing him next week. It'd be really good to see. So yeah, those. Any more on that before I move?
No, chat. If you have anything else you want to say about the KORG Phase 8, let us know.
Exactly.
But otherwise, we'll move over to the round robin, or actually, we have to move to the community corner first.
Community corner, yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So a few updates from the community. We had. Let's start with Discord challenge. Let's go with that. Let's start with that. So we have a new Discord challenge. We're running for a bit longer than a month this year, owing to it's slightly more complex. We took a vote in our Discord, which there is a description. There is a link in the description below. And if you'd like to be a part of that conversation next time, go and sign up over there. But basically, this week, this month, this period, we're doing a secret sample, which is
almost
sorry, nearly there. Yes. Yes, secret sample. Basically, those who have volunteered or have said that they want to partake will submit to me and Sunwarper a sample, and then anonymously we will redistribute those samples to everyone else, so no one knows where their sample is coming from. And then until July 24th.
Yeah, so there's a few different deadlines. So let me just quickly pull up that Discord so we can go for it, because the way this thing is working, we need the participants to kind of do things at certain times so that we can have it all be set. But yes, as Curtis said, so the way it's going to work is let us know in the server challenge Discord channel if you're game to partake, just so we know. And then by June 3rd, send us a sample. And the sample needs to be anything like an instrumental loop, so that could be one instrument, multiple instruments, a track loop, so a 4-bar loop of a full track. You could send stems, whatever, or just a 2-track, or even a full track if you've got something lying around or something. And then you'll send that to us and we'll distribute it, as he said, anonymously to each of the participants. So June 3rd is the deadline to send the sample. June 12th is the deadline that you'll get a sample back to you that you will then flip and do whatever you want with it. And then July 24th is the deadline for submission, because that's the day that we will meet right before ADSN. So an hour before ADSN, we'll hang out, listen to everybody's submissions. And the way we're going to do it is we'll play the submission and then we'll play the original sample and who made it, so that we can kind of see how far it went and things like that. So it's basically like a Secret Santa, but for samples. So the goal of these challenges are just to get us out of our comfort zones, to get us working in different ways, to just kind of exercise these muscles of music making and things like that and see what we can do with it. So if you're game to partake, it doesn't need to be a finished track. You don't have to release it. You don't have to do anything like that. It could be a demo. It can be a 4-bar loop, whatever you've got, just to kind of get the brain working and do that. That's what these challenges have been so fun and rewarding with, just to do it in that way. So if you're game, head to the channel. The Discord link is in the description. You'll see the channel there, and let us know your game. And then by, what was the date? I already lost it, but June 3rd, send us your sample, and then we'll get moving from there.
Fantastic. It's going to be fun. Like I say, we'll a little bit longer to get it all done, but I think it's going to be really good at community, just chatting with each other. And really want to stress, we're not taking it too seriously. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, it's all just to kind of have fun and hang out and get feedback from everyone, and together we grow. We just kind of learn, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what everyone does with the samples, because I'm in some Discord sample flip challenges and stuff like that, and you hear the sample and then you hear what people create with it. It's like, I never would have thought to have done that or this or that, and then and it just gets you kind of thinking in these different ways, and then you can apply that to your own music making, even if you don't use samples or something like that. It's just kind of thinking in a different modality. Exactly.
And in the name of thinking in a different modality, Lars and I had a great chat over the weekend for Starstream, where we had our monthly Starstream, which is also a part of our Patreon, which we'll get to in a second. We have a monthly hangout, usually the last Sunday of every month. This week it was the 3rd, because you guys in the States, you guys have got Labor weekend coming up. But yeah, and that was great. We had a great time. It's on the Audionautic Records sister channel for patrons. The link is there. I put it up on Sunday if you wanted to catch up with what we talked about. It's a really good place. And if you wanted to be involved in these extra things beyond, say, the community challenge, our patron exclusives, for example, head over to Patreon. Patreon.com/Audionautic. Pledges start as little as $2. It's the best way to support us and keep us independent. You know, we don't have sponsorship deals or anything like that, and we don't let money do the talking in regards. And it's your support which allows us to do this week in and week out, and to sit here for 2 hours on a Wednesday evening and talk absolute gas syndrome. For example, this week, I was gonna say something else, and I had to.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna start with a B, but yeah, I was expecting that UK sensibility to come out, but no. Look at that.
Learning. I don't want to get a steam on.
I don't know if that would count towards it, but
I think it would. I think it would.
Yeah, I don't know.
We are, but yes. Thank you for support. Obviously, we just love hanging out with you each and every week. You know, you guys tuning in each week and vibing with what we bring to the table. It's absolutely amazing, and we couldn't thank you more for it. If anyone wanted to pop a couple of quid in the donations box, for example, you're more than welcome. Patreon.com/Audionautic. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that. What am I missing from that, if anything?
Yeah, you might have said it, but you get in an exclusive channel on the Discord and on Twitter, though we don't use the Twitter much anymore, or X, I should say. I think they officially changed to x.com or something. But anyways, Discord channel where we talk all of this type of stuff all day long. There's no time limit or anything like that. And we take questions, we answer, we respond to things, all that. So if you want to help support the show, have a great community where we can talk about all this kind of stuff, just head to patreon.com/Audionautic. It is the best way to help support the show and help support everything we do. If you like the sample challenges, all that type of stuff, this is what helps us keep afloat, keep doing more of this, do things like zoom in on Steve so that you can see Steve's posterior, whatever we want to call it for, you know, the algorithms. But yeah, all that kind of stuff is only possible because of you and your support. So yeah, you can head there, or if you just want to do a one-time donation, we have our PayPal, I believe, in the chat. But if not, let us know and we'll put it in there, because we are up for StreamYard, which allows us to do these things and all of that type of stuff. So yeah, we have to pay the bills. But yeah, that's all we've got for that. But let's move over to the round robin, because this kind of, I have to kind of think of how to phrase this one. But should I just say how this idea kind of came about, Curtis, the whole notion? And maybe you should first say what the round robin is for those new to the channel or things like that.
Very much so. So the round robin is our community discussion off the back of our, you know, community corner. This is where we bring ideas to the table in the notion of discussing it as a community. They can be existential about the journey of the producer. They can be technical in terms of like production or how to do this or how to do that. And it could be general ideas that we're just bringing to the table in order to get everyone's ideas. So again, in the notion of together we grow. And this week, Stonewalper is bringing this notion of, well, you take it away, buddy. You take us for it.
All right. So I don't want to sound like I'm rambling, because I'm not sure if the idea is fully coherent, but basically what I want to talk about is authenticity versus crowd pleasing. There's a couple different reasons this was brought into my attention. So first of all, I think I mentioned it last week, but I did a DJ set. It was basically a favor for my mother-in-law for an event. And the demographic was largely 50 to 65, right? Which is, I wasn't around then. So I had to kind of figure out like, what type of music is it? How do I want to do this? Because it was a charity event. So I had to kind of think of pacing of the sound and things like that. So I started with like just lo-fi beats and like my own chill music and stuff like that, just to, as people were coming in, like, you know, background sounds, elevator music, let's say, or whatever. And then I had ChatGPT help me make a playlist of like 70s, 80s hits and things like that. And first I did what I knew, like from when I was growing up, the songs my parents played. I sent that picture to GPT because GPT got updated for public that you can send photos and things like that, and it can analyze it. And I was like, based on this, help me add more songs and do it in a way that like flows, or, you know, and so I built this new playlist. And wouldn't you know, like I start with the lo-fi stuff. Nobody's really listening. It's just kind of there because it's not their crowd, right? Obviously. But people are like, oh, you know, they're like, the music's nice and all that. And then after the speakers talk, I start throwing on like Kool and the Gang, what is it? Brick House, Bee Gees, like all that kind of stuff. And and everyone just went nuts. And so it just made me think about this like crowd pleasing, like seeing it work in a live setting. Curtis, your camera's dropping. Are you there?
And that's Steve. Steve has decided that no, he decided just to walk over the back with all the cables and stuff. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's why we've got Steve here, to keep us on our toes. But anyways, I just saw the reaction to it, right? And it got me thinking like, well, yes, this is a DJ set. This isn't me playing, but it's interesting seeing how people are reacting to these sorts of sounds and things like that. And like they were really vibing with the music. And then I was having this conversation with Thomas, one of our patrons, about masters, because he's an ambient artist and I'm mixing this remix album coming from this holistic. I want the album to be presented. I'm not thinking about Spotify and these LUFS restrictions and things like that. I want the album to be coherent. And so I mastered his ambient track pretty loud, right, to match with the rest of the other songs. And he's like, oh, I've never heard an ambient track mastered this loud and like this and that. And I'm like, well, that's fine, you know, but I'm not playing to the crowd in that way. But then I was just thinking like, well, you want to fit on playlists. Like you have to think this way. So like, this is a long roundabout way of saying, but like, where do we all set this line of authenticity being who we are, what we are, but also do we need to fit into sort of standards or, you know, thinking of the crowd given Steve's crazy today, given a situation like playing a DJ set or doing something like that? Like, do we need to be cognizant of the audience, or do we just play from our soul, from our heart? You know, where's that line? So Curtis, hopefully that made sense. I know that might have been a bit incoherent, but let me know, as be the judge.
No, I think I hear what you're saying. Basically, where do we draw the line, or where do we find the line between making music that is authentic to ourselves and our creative expression, while also understanding that there is a big wide world out there with people who can or cannot be receptive to the things we put out? How much valuable time do we put into that, or how much energy do we focus on that, and where do we focus on that? Is that fair?
Yeah, and Smiling Air has kind of spoiled what I was going to mention, but that's okay. That shows like-minded individuals, right? Smiling Air says, I think that question is dictated by the music you aim for. Many artists want to be pop, and their sensibilities won't be clashing on this. I agree, but I want to talk other things, like just thinking like our music, right? Like you can have these sensibilities that can fit in certain aspects or things like that, or even just mastering for ambient music. Like a lot of playlists now cater to the whims of Spotify, or a lot of musicians, it seems like, cater to I need it like under -14 or at -14. And they changed that setting 3 times or whatever since they've created that. So it's like, it's not constant. Whereas I'm thinking like in this Bandcamp position or CD or the digital, like if you purchase this, I want it to be a coherent story and things like that. And so I feel like, me personally, it still comes into play even in more left of center genres or things like that. So yeah, Lars says audience capture is real. Lars, good to see you. I see it sounds like you're having some issues. I'm sorry to hear that. I was talking, so I didn't get to read it all, but yeah, hopefully everything's getting sorted. Sorry to hear that. Smiling Earth says, when you're old, the DJs will be playing Nickelback and NSYNC for you. Yeah, I won't be vibing with those, but I think Curtis will, because he likes Nickelback now. I think he's been converted. But yeah, I just want to hear everybody's thoughts. I'm just curious to see. It was very interesting, I guess, just to see people's reactions in person to this. Like, oh, like they're hearing the stuff they love from the past and things like that, and really it's resonating with them. And it was a very interesting idea to see. So
I hear that. I think we're at a risk of making this more complicated. And I've got the conversation that you had the other week about you and me complicating things. I feel like there's a couple of layers to this, right? So there is that notion of where that classic, where do you strike the line between it, right? But also there's that subconscious, when you've been doing it for a bit longer, are you being authentic, or are you subconsciously moving yourself to something that you know will crowd please, for example,
Right.
and how conscious are you about that, which is
Yeah.
a very valid thing. Like if you look at, say, Feeler Math, and if you look at Astrolabe, for example, those two, like my first releases, they're incredibly ropey. They're incredibly, in terms of like what you put out there, they are just pure creative flow and spirit. I didn't have an audience. It was my first time putting something out. Completely didn't know what I was doing. It's rough, but there's a certain heart to it, which I love, right? And you fast forward to like into Voidal, for example, which technically speaking, there's a lot more going on, but it's a lot more, it ticks the boxes of what people I know, both in myself and other people, kind of vibe with, because I've been doing it for a bit longer. And what I'm saying is, in a roundabout way, is my creative journey somewhat influenced by the feedback, both positive and negative, that I get from people around me, and hits and likes and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's like no one is an island, right? So we're going to be taking in the world around us, and no matter how thick-skinned, whatever you want to call it, we're going to hear feedback, and we're going to see things succeed. And are we going to, whether consciously or unconsciously, start going, oh, okay, I'm going to work that way? Like the guitar track I talked about at the start, making that guitar track, that's most likely going to fit in a number of playlists that I've fit in before that do really well for me. Yet I didn't make it because of that. That was just the song I wanted to do. But then I'm like, did I unconsciously think I want to do that guitar version so that I can get to those playlists, right? Like, is that wrong? I don't think so. I don't think so. And it depends, kind of like what Smiling Air said earlier and stuff, but it depends on the context. Like, are you a working musician? Do you need to have those songs so that you can do other songs where you can just go crazy and do like a 20-minute noise extravaganza that, maybe however many people are going to listen to, and then you have that other song that is going to like play to the crowd, placate the crowd or whatever. Looks like I pissed Lars off. I unironically love Nickelback. That's all right, man. We can all love things. Like, it's okay. I don't hate Nickelback. I just make the joke because it's funny. Asaph says, I see no issue with writing for an audience. It's a skill. I suck at it, so don't try. That's one way to look at it for sure. I think, let me see what else I read. Sorry, we were talking. I'm trying to monitor the chat as well, so I apologize if I'm missing stuff. Just retype it if there's something you want me to read. Smiling Ears, I'm just, if you don't mind giving me the context of this one, because I probably just missed it, but he says, yep, I think this is a sign of a greater distance between the musician and the engineer in the past. Back in the day, the musician would just say no. Nowadays, a lot more is done remotely, and you get what you get. Let me know what that's in reference to, just so I'm clear. But that is a good point too. This is interesting from Lars. Back when I used to DJ, I always played to the crowd. They were paying me, so they get what they wanted. Again, yeah, it's fitting where in context. I guess I'm just trying to take the experience and see how it translates to the music we make in our community and things like that. Because a lot of us in here make different genres and things like that, but it all kind of falls under this experimental electronic. But like, I do synthwave, I do ambient stuff. Like, we all do these different things. Curtis, you do like ambient sounds, you do the more experimental stuff. You have long tracks, you have shorter tracks, you have like what was it, Thinking About You, which just came out recently, that was very in that like post I'm blanking on the genre. What was the hyperpop? There we go. Yeah, it was like
it's very lo-fi.
Very lo-fi, but like post hyperpop. But yeah, it's just interesting that we veer into these things, and I guess I just wanted to talk like, where do we fall on it? Because I think of that notion back like in high school and stuff, like metal musicians. Oh, they sold out. They got on a corporate label or something. But it's like they're trying to do this for a living, and the sound probably changed, and I understand that end, but it's just it's an interesting thought process I want to hear from everybody, and I just wanted to bring it to the table after seeing the physical reaction of people to the songs that they enjoy and things. And Curtis, anything else you want to add?
I think that I think there is a balance to be struck. And I think, personally, from my creative journey, is the fact that I learn a lot about making music we all do this, but a lot of learning about making music, like structure, tonality, etc., through dissecting existing staples, if that makes sense. So like take a take Hold Your Color, for example, by Pendulum as a drum and bass album, or a rock tronica album, as they call it. Like, what are the elements of that, and what can I take from that I can then choose to do my creative expression? I vibe with that album. What do I like about it? What can I emulate? What do I want to emulate about it, etc.? So like that automatically, by very definition, can make you move towards something less experimental and something that does fit a bill in that regard. And that's just a valid creative expression as anything else. I think the only difference becomes is really when we look to move from the studio to the market. And this is a question that we're bringing up, because no longer is it sitting in a box, metaphorical or physical? It's going out into the world, and it's okay. Now we go Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify, that kind of thing. That's when those questions come in, because that's when you start looking at playlisting, and you start looking at likes, and you start looking at things like that. Like, I've just reignited my SoundCloud I've been starting to make bootlegs and stuff like that. It's the only
I love the way you phrased that, reignited. You took like a lighter to it,
and just
it's on.
There, that's because that's the only place that I could put my bootlegs without potentially getting sued, for example, right? But I mean, that's just where I don't know how long that will exist for. I don't know how long that will be there for. But it's, as long as I keep doing SoundCloud, it will be a place where I put and if you want to go see my bootlegs and stuff, and my demos and stuff, like, that's probably where I'm going to start putting that stuff, for the notice of getting along with the journey, And so basically, in a very roundabout way, what I'm saying is your question and your ideas are coming from, I suppose, when we start marketing things, and it's all valid. I don't think there is any right. Yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong, good or bad. I think there just is. And while we go, and we're about, I know everyone in the Discord wants us to talk more about Spotify, and we probably will do in the next couple of weeks, depending of what's been going down. But now we have such a plethora of places. I love that alliteration, where we can do stuff, and so we can take advantage of all these places, and it's all valid and all amazing.
Yeah. Totally. And you're right. It is coming from the aspect of marketing it, but it does play a role in the creation, whether conscious or unconscious, in that sense. So there is that, when you sit down to make a song, like, what's happening? Are you going, I want to make a synthwave track because that's what works for me on Spotify, or, this or that, or if you start making something more out there and you go, no, I need to rein it in because that's not going to get on a playlist, or that's not going to do well with my audience or something. And I think I have some flexibility in the sense that, like, a lot of what I do now is YouTube videos and they're tutorials, right? So I can kind of just do whatever genre I want within reason, but still like make it in that thing. But it's just an interesting thought exercise, and chat is absolutely buzzing. So I want to share my line of this delineation after I read some chats, because something Lars said actually is very similar to what I was gonna. It's kind of the conclusion I came to on this. But Smiling Earth first. Oh, actually, Smiling Earth. Sorry. First, I don't know if I read this one already, but it deserves a second one if I did. Lars says, "Audience gives you a dopamine hit." That's a good point. That's a very good point, and kind of like what made me think of this. Smiling Earth says, "Even jazz artists play to their audience." Now Lars is happy thinking about jazz. Says, "Jazz." Here's a very interesting one from Asaph Stripe. Is AI going to play to the crowd? I think so. So staying authentic may be a better pivot. I'm not so sure about that. Yes, but AI is going to be completely data-driven, right? And formulaic based on what it's given. So I think what?
Is that not that?
Well, yes, but what I was going to say is that playing to the crowd will change. ChatGPT's newest thing is October 23rd. Things change, stuff like that. Updates and things like that change, but also the crowd changes. And in the internet age, TikTok age, what's popular changes drastically on a dime, right? So that's all I'm saying. And just you can still be authentic in formulas, in my opinion. Like you can take a formula and then veer off from it, but still have that basis that is familiar. And think of some Pink Floyd songs, right? Like maybe not those songs are the most popular of theirs, but like they're doing their thing. And maybe I'm wrong. That's an older thing for me, but like I just listen to them and I'm like, yeah, you know, there's some really interesting ideas in there that, yeah. Smiling Ears, with that topic he was mentioning above about the musicians being remote with engineers, he was discussing how masters are being done to fit playlist norms. Engineer is doing it correctly, but lacks what the band would sound like live. Add to that, a lot of musicians don't gig now. Yeah, and not only that, but it's also the sound you're going for. Like maybe you, like I was saying, like a lot of my ambient tracks, I base it on the formula, but then I want to add things that are a little different, and I want to do it in my way. And so I don't want to fit necessarily to that arbitrary LUF setting from one, because Spotify has it at 1, another has it at -16. Like it's changing for all these different streaming platforms, and it will change again. So I don't care, you know? So it's like they can do whatever they want with it. Curtis, anything before I keep reading?
Keep going. There's a lot of chat.
Yeah, it's buzzing, but this is the one I was saying is kind of where my delineation comes from and the conclusion I came to. This is from Lars. I like making a lot of different stuff, and some of it does better than other stuff. My vapor wavy stuff does the best on Spotify, but my weird ambient noise does best on Bandcamp. I find that the demographics and listener bases are quite different. Like me personally, I've had decent success on Spotify with synthwave and with those ambient guitar tracks, but other songs, like, you know, my IDM type stuff does really well on Bandcamp, but it doesn't translate to streaming and things like that. Or even between streamers, like some stuff on Apple Music is like my IDM stuff that does really well. It's just bizarre. But that's kind of why I like to make all these different genres. I mean, one, I just want to, but it's nice to know that they can find an audience as well, even if I'm not doing it for an audience specifically. Lars also says AI doesn't even know what a crowd is. It's just data points to an AI. What were you going to say, Curtis?
No, I carry on for now. It's fine.
Okay. Let's see what else we have. Ace of Stripe says you must get formulaic to write pop. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, for sure. And I can see what you mean. I mean, that's why I think AI will do best in terms of best in quotes, in terms of music creation for these like more generic and formulaic genres. But I still think things change quickly over in time and things like that, that I don't think AI. I mean, I was using the session players in Logic yesterday. I talked about it on the Discord, and like the pianos in the piano player were so generic and just like basic chord intervals of a key that I was like, wow. Like, you know, I mean, and that's supposedly AI driven in the future and Apple and all that stuff. And the bass sounded pretty cool. And I'm granted, I only used it for about an hour, just tweaking things. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think for now, at least, AI is going to be very AI-y.
I think that's fair. I think again, it comes back to what you're saying. Like you said, like Lars is saying, like you're saying, you know, we have these different buckets of different people, and they are there, right? They exist, and they're always going to exist in some form or another. Things will change. Spotify will cease to exist at some point. Bandcamp will turn into Camp Band, and you know, but it will continue to be in some form or another, and other platforms will pop up and pop down. The crowd will always be there. I suppose it's about a Venn diagram in that regard. It's about where the tracks of your own authentic creative expression and where they then Venn diagram with it. So like, again, thinking about you, done really well on Spotify, but it's, I mean, one person's bought it on Bandcamp, for example. It's not a Bandcamp song, it's a Spotify song, but I knew that going into it. And it's like, but that crowd is always there, and they're not going to go anywhere. And we just live in this world where you can put them in different places, and that's absolutely fine. That's great in that regard. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. That's kind of where I fell when I thought about it, is like, I don't think it's wrong to necessarily play for an audience, but I think you need to have authenticity. And that could be the authenticity of, I want to make these songs for this sound. But as long as it's speaking from who you are, and you're not just going, well, I know this type of sound, like, you know, you're just making the formula because it's supposed to work, because that's what the genre is. I mean, me personally, when I did try that like years ago, you know, I was like, just, yeah, I'm going to do, like, it didn't work because it wasn't true expression or whatever. And maybe some people can do that, and that's fine, but that's just kind of where I landed on it. Smiling Ears has an interesting bit. Also, the market is still skewed by artists that existed before streaming. They have their own servers and sites. In the next few years, we'll really know how the dust settled when only modern musicians drive traffic. It will be interesting to see. Ace of Stripe says, I think AI will make some catchy stuff, not necessarily artistic to me, but it's very personal. It's best to stay open-minded. I agree. And I just shared Lars's because the chat's just buzzing. I love how we talk about AI like it's one single artist. Yeah, I mean, I think we're just talking AI as if it's a genre, right?
Yeah.
Like not a one artist or something like that, but AI is its own thing. And I agree with Ace of Stripe. I mean, you all know Curtis and I both love AI. We use it all the time for things and stuff like that. Not necessarily for music stuff, but I just think there will always be a group of people that crave the authenticity of performed instruments and sounds like that. I mean, even just listening to those old songs when I was setting up the playlist, I was like, wow, just listening to the slight mistakes and the sound of these real instruments and the like the songwriting of those tracks were so interesting for pop music or whatever. Like the way they were written compared to the stuff we hear now, I feel like but there will always be people that take new ideas and do something creative with it. Like what I'm going to do with those session players is sample flip them. So it's like create a song using only the session players and then flip that and create a song by me taking these sources to see what I can do with it. And I think there's always going to be something you can do with all that stuff. I'm not ruling AI out. What I hear from AI still with all the advances happening so far, and it's going to change, of course, but it still has that AI thing and it's just following formula, and we'll see what happens with it. It's going to be very interesting, but yeah, I'm not ruling AI out. I think there will always be that desire for authenticity. Lots of chat. Asif says, yeah, it's a creative concept. AI is creative. I agree. Like, I mean, I use it. It's really cool to make like an art idea. And another idea I saw someone do is they make an idea with AI images and then hire an artist to make that image like properly with the humanness of it, right? Like, hey, this is my design, rather than me just telling you I want a person standing on a mountain looking at this beautiful thing. I make it with AI, tweak it, and then go like, okay, can you make this? It's an interesting idea. Or like taking the session players in Logic and using them to start a track instead of sampling vinyl where you have copyright issues or something.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I was distracted by Lars as you were saying that, but the question becomes then in that regard, what you're essentially, in my head at least, from how I hear what you're saying, what you're essentially saying is like the whole China room thought experiment, right? With like, and I mean, I don't want us to derail this into a whole conversation about AI, but it's about, again, like people are saying in the chat and stuff, about this authentic expression of where it's coming from. And whether or not we can be true to our own authenticity, if, for example, we are chasing algorithms, chasing playlists, chasing streams, chasing buys, for example, is that authentic? And it's a really interesting concept, because it's so, you could be a purist and you said the only authentic expression is one where you are in a black box where you don't see the world and you just make what is good for you, and then a deviation from that is a corruption of that authenticity, and therefore all art is a corruption of that authenticity, which is a really interesting point. But also, some of the best music is made which is influenced from the world around you, and there's no such thing as improvisation. To go off of what Lars is saying about jazz, for example, there's no such thing as improvisation. Everything is just a reconstitution of what you've heard before in some form or another. I mean, we could tie ourselves in knots about this.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all opinions and things like that. I just wanted to hear everybody's thoughts on it. There's no right or wrong here, and I'm just curious to hear everybody's own line. Like, what is the crowd please? What is there even a line there, or is authenticity in crowd pleasing, or this and that? I just wanted to hear everybody's take, because it was a very interesting thought. Like, as I was there, I was just like, this is really like, to see it in live. I've done live shows and stuff like that, but this is like psychologically, these are songs that have resonated with people for years, right? And like, it's their history, it's their experiences of like their youth and things like that. So seeing the reaction that they got was just a very interesting experience. And so it just got me thinking about all this stuff in a way that my music that I've made for, let's say, like when I did my last live show, like live show, it was in 2020. So I had done music as Sunwarper for maybe a year or two. And so like I saw people who knew the songs, but there were a lot who didn't, of course, because it was just starting out and things like that. But this is like seeing the crowd pleasers, right? So just an interesting thought experiment that I wanted to hear everybody's take on. We can continue the talk in the Discord. I just want to quickly, there's a lot of chat, and I know we're running short on time, and I'm about done, quite honestly. But it's just with the day, I do not feel well today. So I appreciate everybody hanging out on it and stuff. But this is an interesting idea from Pat, and I wanted to mention just in terms of the session players, but Pat says, what will the copyright be with generated AI? And I believe Lars is right in this response that in the US, AI art can't be copyrighted, at least as it stands now, of whatever day today is, May 22nd, 2024. But I'm not sure. I need to look more into the Logic session players, because the way the session player is set up, I think it's really just MIDI options that are triggering an instrument. And so it's generated in the sense that it's like if you were using chord packs or something. And I might be wrong, but the way I was seeing it, when you get like 5 options of like chord progression performances, like I want it on the 1, on the and the 3 and the 4 or whatever. And you get all these options, and then it's just doing it. But if you open the instrument, it's just a VST instrument that you could load on a MIDI channel and play via MIDI. So I think it's more like a MIDI generation and not taking like sound sources and things like that. But on the other hand, too, I mean, who's MIDI? I don't know whose MIDI are they taking. But then you buy a chord pack, and it's the same issue there. Like, is there a copyright on a chord shape? No, So I don't know. It's interesting, but working with it just for the little time I have, I am very curious with these non-percussion session players, how similar people using it, like how similar the songs or those sounds will turn out. Because there are a lot of options in terms of complexity and things like that. But like I was saying, there's like 5 options per setting of chord performances. So I wonder the limitation in changes and things like that.
It's so interesting. I find it so... I'm watching, as you're talking, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm witnessing the conversation about AI and copyright in the chat. And it's just, it fills me with joy, because I mean, you know what my opinions are over copyright and that kind of thing. And I just love how it is. It's throwing all notions of what is copyright and copyrightable up into the air, because it's been a long
I just need to, I apologize, but the conversation where it's going, we can't have that. So I'm going to have to delete those. You'll need to do that in the Discord. Apologies about that, everybody, but we can't go there. The YouTube algorithm will not like that. So I try to let the chat say what they want, but that's where we can't have it. So apologies, sorry, friends, but carry on in the Discord if you want to talk that type of stuff.
That's what Starstream is for as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, delineating the line. Do you have anything to say? Any final words on that notion?
No, there's a lot of chat, but we're pretty short on time. I think we'll leave it there. Chat, if you do want to continue the talk, go to Discord. Yeah. Lars, I'm with you, but yeah, carry on in the Discord for anything you want to add, Curtis.
No, just I think I say no, but then yes, I do. The line
as is typical for you.
I think the line is one that is malleable and is ever shifting throughout the journey of people pleasing and trying to make some money and trying to make a name for yourself in a creative expression or a creative space that you really want to. That line is flexible, malleable, and can shift through the years, and that's totally fine. That's totally cool. That's the fun of it, I think.
There's one last thing I wanted to mention. I saw something that Sony put out, like a statement that they could not have their stuff be used for AI or something. Did you see that, or did anybody in the chat see that?
Did not see that. I can't say I said that.
Let me just see. Sony is now looking to protect its array of music content as the demand for AI training data increases. In a declaration published across its website, Sony Music Group publicly states that all use of its music library for training is prohibited.
I mean, you can say these things.
They're just stating it, and I guess it's like The Office. I declare bankruptcy.
It's like saying you can't leave your valuables in a locker, in a public locker. It's like you just don't want to get sued, or you just don't want the headache.
I guess they're trying to set up some sort of paper trail for if it does come out, then they can like maybe say. Like, I don't know how it would stand in a legal setting, but like, look, we issued this declaration and then they did it, you know? But it is interesting to see. I mean, we figured it would happen, but now major labels are starting to kind of put their like line in the sand or whatever have you of like, you know, now we might see where AI is going to go or something like that. Like them trying to stop where AI is going or something. I mean, it's just really interesting. So yeah, that's probably something we can discuss in the Discord, but I saw that very interesting. Yeah. There was also, as the chat saying, the AI, the ChatGPT voice, that whole legal issue there. So yeah, definitely, as Asaph says, another discussion for another day. We also have, as Smilingers put out in the Discord, the whole MLC suing Spotify. So there's that. If there's anything you want to add about that, everybody head to the Discord, but we can talk about that either next week or the week after.
Yeah. So with that note, this week, until we meet again, Sunwalker, I will probably meet you on Monday. What are you going to be doing over the weekend? What is your plan? What do you want to do?
The Logic stuff. I'm gonna actually I'm gonna live stream, I think, on Sunday if all goes right, because I can't make a video for tomorrow. I need to postpone it to next week. So my hope is I can live stream on Sunday, flipping those session player sounds. I'm gonna make session player sounds and then flip them on the SP into a beat. Just to I just want to experiment and see like what can be done with this type of stuff. I really like the session bassist. It's I mean, I love playing bass. It's not going to replace playing bass, but it was very interesting, the kind of like slides and little like funk hits and stuff. So for sampling, I can see that one being very interesting, but I want to see where we can go with that keyboard, because I was not very impressed by the keyboard player, but I'm curious with like sampling and destructive effects and stuff, what we can do. That's it. And then just figuring out, I have to figure out all of the marketing stuff for the remix album. I think we'll have something. Well, really quickly, chat, I'd love to hear if you have a second to respond, but I was thinking of having like each artist maybe give like a 1-minute video or voice or text thing about like how they approach remixing a track. Because I've heard a lot of people kind of say like, I don't know where to start with the remix. So chat, let me know if that seems like an interesting idea you'd like to hear. It's, I think, 11 artists or something like that. But I think that would be interesting to hear from everybody, just and share it here. Like, how do we approach remixes? Because there's so many different ways to do it. And it was so interesting hearing what everyone did with those songs that I'd like to know kind of like, well, when you get the stems, where do you go?
I like that. I think that'd be a really good starting point to hear. It's a community event. You have garnered a lot of talent from all around the world. Be good to hear from them. I think it's a really good start.
Well, Lars says I knew exactly where to start, at least on this one. Well, you can say it, I guess, in a video message or something. But yeah, we'll also have, I think, Curtis and Eon Lake as hosts. I think we can have them kind of maybe share their project or something. Curtis whipped up something insane, and Eon Lake just took this idea, went in a completely different direction, took a 2-minute track, and Eon Laked it to 9 minutes. and I was like, I thought I was cutting onions when I heard it, because it was so interesting how he took the idea, the themes, turned it into this like trancy whatever, but the idea is still there. Like it just it blew my, like the message of the song, the intent is there in this completely different method. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be an exciting couple of weeks upcoming.
But what are you doing though?
Well, I've got to finish off some artwork for the release that we have next Wednesday,
right?
And Friday. So that'll be the majority of my week. That's a big one.
Dude, that front cover you made.
I'm quite proud of that one. I quite like
that. I saw it because I hadn't seen it. By the way, the Eon Lake's got a new album out on Friday. Not this Friday, next Friday. we'll have him on and all that stuff, and we'll be talking. But if there's anything you want to hear from Eon Lake about his production, the man is a mixing wizard. I mean, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it, but yeah, let us know in the Discord about that. But Curtis whipped up one of the best artworks I've ever seen. I had to download it for the distributor, and I hadn't seen it, and then I was just like, "Whoa, okay." Yeah,
It's
Beyond Polarities is the album title, and it's something special. We're very excited to release Eon Lake's album, and it's been a minute since he's had one out. We're looking forward to get it out there into the world. There'll be CD, and that artwork is very nice to have physically. But yeah, what else are you up to? Sorry, I was so impressed with your art, man. It was awesome.
Appreciate that. I think, and because it's such a good album, it's such a strong, hard-hitting album. It's definitely one for the community. I'm gonna try do my best over the weekend to do it justice. So we've got back artwork to finish, we've got promotional videos to finish, we've got back office emails to send and stuff. So majority of my time be spending doing that. I'm trying to also take it a little bit easy in terms of like not forcing myself to be creative when I'm not feeling creative. So I'll be over there at the sketch station building my soft modular synth, I think, dipping in and out of it and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm going to be doing this week. It's going to be a good weekend, I think. Yeah,
it's exciting. Yeah, I was like, I can rush to get this video out tomorrow and then try to get one filmed for next week. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. It's like I get my head above water and then I just have something dragging me and I'm drowning. Like, so I'm like, no, we got to just do what's right, do what's fitting. So yeah, it's good to, mental health wise, it's good to take stock of everything and realize where you need to kind of do things and get creative time, get time to yourself, all of that. So that's good to hear, man. That's very good to hear. Is there anything else you want to discuss before we go? We've got our playlist. I got to do an update for it. The link is in the description. It is on Spotify. We're looking into getting it to Tidal and all that stuff. But if you do want to help chill independent artists get some, plays on Spotify, and if you want your music on there, head to there, submit it in the Discord, and let us know if you want to join the secret sample Discord challenge. I'm very excited about this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we've already got one really cool submission. A couple more are coming in, we were told, so we've got a lot of good stuff coming. So it's a lot of fun. There's no pressure, as I said. I just want to reiterate to make something fully finished. It's just a fun experiment that we then hang out. Curtis usually has a couple beers, I want to say, or something, but maybe not because we're about to go to Audionaut. I don't really drink anymore, but we just hang out. We give some feedback. It's just a really chill atmosphere where we're just working on music. Sleeping State 1978 says, good show, guys. Thank you very much. Awesome to have you. Asaph says, stay focused and chill. Peace, everyone. With that, we will see you next week, 11 a.m. Pacific, and we'll see all of you over in the Discord and in the secret sample challenge. I'm really stoked to see everything. That it's going to be a lot of fun, that one. Curtis, anything else before we go?
To hear where you're at and joining in the conversation that we bring to the table. Thank you ever so much for staying this on. We've been on for an hour and a half today. So yeah, props. Thank you for taking your little time you have and spending it with us. It's really nice of you.
Yeah, it means the world. And I honestly almost I didn't bail because I knew it was just Curtis today, but I felt so bad today. But it was a lot of fun just hanging out with you all and chatting. And now I'm going to go sleep for, well, I'd say a very long time, but it's probably about 10 minutes. And then I have to deal with dad duties, but that's okay. We'll sleep when we can. So it's all right. With that, we'll see you next week, 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. UTC. Thanks again for tuning in. And yeah, see you.